Kia ora. Given we've just started, and this, apologies right from the start, this webinar is new to all of us. So thank you all for joining us. I'm going to quickly hand over to Lloyd McCall to get us started. I expect you can all see a slide on your screen that says this meeting is being recorded. If you can't, I'll just let you know this meeting is being recorded. So if you do not wish to be recorded, you can leave if you want to, but that would be a shame. But we'd love to keep you around. So assuming we're all cool with that, I'll hand over to Lloyd McCall to get us started for this webinar.
Tēnā koutou, na me nui kia koutou I hui mai nei. We'll just do a quick karakia to start the meeting. This is the karakia that's been given to ORC from Otako Runanga. Tue ki ronga, tue ki raro, tue ki waho, tue ki roto, kua ki te haere tangata, ko rongo te pō, ko rongo te ao, homie, hui tai ki e. So welcome everybody to this webinar for the Catlins Integrated Management Plan. The karakia that I use basically talks about uniting together, unite above, unite below, unite without, unite within, and unite as one. Listen to the night and listen to the world of light. Now we can come together as one. So that's a very good karakia for what we're looking at doing here this evening. Housekeeping. We probably don't have a lot of housekeeping because you all know where our exits are, etc., etc. But we have technical issues. I believe we have Sharon in the background that'll help us out. So that's all very good. I think the plan here is we're going to do our presentation, but as we're going through the participants, we invite you to put your comments or questions in the chat, the group chat. And Sophie, is that the right one?
In the Q&A.
In the Q&A, sorry, yep. Oh yeah, it is Q&A, sorry. Into the Q&A, and Sophie will be monitoring that, and then she'll just bring those questions and comments in as they arrive or when it's appropriate. So that's all very good. So basically we'll just like to kick the meeting off. What's the purpose of the meeting? And I think I was actually, we had our meeting in Waka this afternoon. We had a really good turnout, which was awesome. But there was a person afterwards that just said to me, said, you know, we probably need to start as to why we're having the meeting to start with. So what's the goal? Or the vision. So the vision is basically, it's come from the ORC when they're doing their long-term plan 2021. And it's like the vision of the council is to help empower the communities to work together for the benefit of their environments. And so they set up this integrated catchment management project, which we're in the midst of now. And it's really, the vision is really to have communities working together as one for the common goal, which is providing an environment for everybody into the future. That's sort of like my take on it anyway. So it's really about the communities coming together and working as one for the environment. And so that's where we come to today. So to kick the process off, the council put together like a working group. The working group was made up of several people. Obviously there was representatives from the ORC, myself being one, and Kate Wilson being both councillors. And there's also people from the management team as well, Dr. Gavin Palmer, Andrea Howard from strategy, and Tom De Placemaker from policy were all there. And probably more, they were there in an advice. They're on the committee, don't get me wrong, but they're more in an advisory role and keeping the wheels going. We also have on the committee two very important people, one of which is sitting right beside me, Maria Bartlett, representing Te Ao Marama or Kaito, and also Sandra McIntyre representing Okaha. So they've been at all the meetings right from the very beginning. We've also had representatives from the Catlins area, Rachel, who you'll see on screen, Rachel Napier, and also Robin Shanks. And Robin was at the meeting this afternoon, and both have been really awesome in their approach to putting together the working group and getting to where we are now. We also had on the group Simon O'Meara. So Simon O'Meara was on the group as part of his role with the Otago Catchment community. So Otago Catchment communities is basically a Otago-wide group. This has funding from NPI and ORC to foster the development and running of catchment groups throughout the whole Otago region. So it's all about this ground-up approach to catchment management. So that's pretty much the committee. So the committee had like 6 or 7 meetings, I think it was, and it's really about coming together to work out the procedures or the processes that we would be using to be able to bring communities together to be able to form an integrated catchment plan. So with an integrated catchment plan being taking the wider view of an area or a catchment or an area. So it's bringing in land-based stuff right out to the sea, ki utu ki tai, and it's about biodiversity, water quality. It's about everything that the community wants it to be about, as long as it's to do with creating an environment for our future generations. So we come together, and the Catlins area was decided to be the pilot area. So that's why we've got community members from the Catlins area on the working committee. So it's the vision is to roll out integrated catchment plans across all of Otago, which are community-based plans that we can support the development of going forward. And as I said at the beginning, it's really the desire for the council. We see the mileage, the best outcomes coming from community taking like a responsibility and ownership and working in partnership with iwi and ORC for the betterment of their areas. So that brings us here today. So the purpose of the meeting tonight and this afternoon was basically just to walk you through how we got to where we are. We have a little bit of input from and Anna Malloy is going to we're going to start off, with Rachel, talking about, her view being on the working committee and what we can offer. And then Anna, actually, Anna, I forgot to say that yourself, Anna, and Sophie, you have been integral in the whole way through in the development of in the working group and behind. So Anna is the principal advisor for the environment implementation team. So she's going to walk us through, basically what is the integrated catchment management and how we got to where we are now. We're going to have Maria's going to talk on behalf of the iwi for a little bit, and then we're going to have Sophie go through a little bit of the mechanics of how we might be able to work with the community to actually build what we call catchment action plans or outcomes for the community. So I think that's pretty much where I can leave it at this stage, and I can pretty much hand over to Rachel, who's hiding behind my...
G'day, can you hear me? I'll just check first. Cool, okay. Hi, for those that don't know, my family and I farm down in Tahakopa. We're sheep and beef farmers. I was approached by Anna to join the working party with this integrated catchment management initiative, and I was asked, because of my involvement with being a member of the Waka catchment group, plus also a member of Catlins Coast. Yeah, right from the go, initially I was very pleased to be involved in this. I think it's a great opportunity for us to future-proof the Catlins, and it lets us come from the base of the Catlins, from the communities, and do projects that actually are important to us rather than being from the top down. And my point from being a farmer, that it's not just about the environment and the water, but it's also about businesses and the community. But of course, being sheep and beef farm, that's a strong interest of mine. Last week I was asked to join an online meeting regarding stock exclusions and how they go about that. If we get our from the Catlins point of view, that's something serious with the farming, with the sheer number of waterways. So if we can get some local data, some science, around what's exactly happening in our waterways and what farmers need to do to protect our water, but also to ensure that they can farm successfully and be profitable. That's great, and that would enable us to put that information into our freshwater farm plans, and hopefully future-proof businesses in the Catlins, because we want to make sure that we've got a thriving environment and also a thriving rural community. And of course, right through this, we're going to have the backing of the ORC with their science and their skills as well, and that we can use this as a partnership to protect the community and look after what's important to us all. And it's for a whole community input rather than just looking at one aspect of it. It's looking at everything, the whole, all the businesses, tourism, our local towns, and the people in it, as well as ensuring that we're looking after the environment. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Rachel. That's awesome. Thanks, Lloyd and Rachel, for the introduction. Assuming everybody can hear me, I will start with a couple of more slides, if you'll bear with me. Before I do, though, I might just mention again that for those people who may have joined after we introduced, this meeting is being recorded, this webinar, I should say. And if you would like to ask a question or make some comment, you can do so by opening the Q&A sidebar. And Charlie's just said she can't hear me. So, Sandra McIntyre, I can see you. Can you hear me? Yep. All right, Charlie, we're going to have to assume that might be your problem, unless we get a lot more comments of people can't hear me. I'll just check. No, just all right. Can those people who I can see on screen tell me if they can see integrated catchment management? What is it? Great. Thank you. I keep seeing there are new posts, but they're not popping up. So, oh, comments. That's weird. I don't understand how this thing works. Sharon might be able to check the Q&A discussion, but I can see 2 new comments. Okay. Nope, she's got me now. All right. So technical difficulties over. Please leave any questions in the Q&A. We will get to them as we go through this or at the end of this. My friend here, Sophie, will keep an eye on those while I'm chatting away. So integrated catchment management. That's one of the key terms that we'll be talking about over the next few years, or ICM, as some people refer to it. It's a lot easier to say. This few slides here will be around what is it, and well, as I said, it's integrated catchment management. So it's a process for how we understand and manage a whole ecosystem. It uses a catchment as the geographic boundary, but it's not just one catchment in many cases. It's a useful boundary for us to use so we can look at the system within that boundary. It's not just about the environment either. It includes social, economic and cultural considerations, because without all of those and those interactions, we can't see how the whole system works. And we need to have that whole view to be able to look at what we are looking to do. It's about combining effort to reach common goals. And it's also based on knowledge, and that's not just Western science, but also our Mataraka Maori and traditional knowledges, or any anecdotal knowledge and local knowledge. Talking about local knowledge, it's about the community and all the people who interact and live in and visit within those areas. And also, of course, to some degree, policy. And by policy, I mean those kind of frameworks that are in place that frame what we can and can't do. But it's not about the rules. It's about what we want to do within these spaces in terms of improving the environment in a general sense. So as an example, here's a catchment. This one happens to be Te Hokopa, which is a part of the Catlins. You can see you've got a couple of valleys and so on. So we use this term catchment management, but it's not just about water, although it does, of course, use fresh water, because water is one of the focuses and it's impacted and a result of the health of the surrounding land. So in that sense, it includes all the other parts of our ecosystem, from our flora and fauna or biodiversity, land and soils, and the health of them and how we use them, the estuaries and coastline, as well as our marine area. So this fresh water flows out through our estuaries into our marine zone as well. So the marine mammals and sea and life that lives within here, our kelp beds and so on, are all impacted by what happens in these catchments. So another way of looking at it is that ICM is a process through which people can develop a goal, agree on shared values and behaviours, and then make informed decisions and act together to manage the natural resources of their catchment. So it is about that kind of step. What is it we want to do? How do we work to get there together? And setting that goal, that overarching goal of natural resource management or environmental management. The principles that we've been working towards in this, there are 5 key ones, and they underpin everything we want to do. The first one is that it has to be collaborative. And not just consultative, but collaborative. The working group that is, not just ORC, but Mana Whenua or iwi and our community work together in a partnership to equally be a part of this process. And it needs to be genuine so that there's a genuine ownership of the planning mechanism that comes out at the end of this. I mentioned this plan, we'll get to more to that later, but it's based on best available knowledge. There's a lot of the systems we work with are very complex, and there's a lot of data and information. And when you drill down into it, you can get more and more and more into that data. We're never going to know everything. So it's about working on what we do know to make the best possible decisions based on that data at the time. Having said that, these catchments can be large areas, they're complex. We can't do everything all at once. There may be multiple issues, multiple problems, multiple opportunities. We need to be able to focus on those that will give us the best bang for our buck, so to speak, or what are our priorities, so we can work on them first. We're keen to be very accountable, and by that we mean showing what we're planning, measuring what we are doing, and tracking how we're going. So that's available to all, for the public to see how a plan has come together and how progress is being made against that plan. And in monitoring that, not only do we monitor our progress, but we monitor, are we making a difference? Are we achieving the goals we've set for ourselves? And if we're not, why not? And can we adapt? So we want the plans and the processes to be adaptive so that we're not stuck on one pathway if we think it actually needs to change a tiny bit or even a lot. So what's the benefits of integrated catchment management? Well, I've mentioned a few of these, but holistic appreciation of landscapes. So by landscape, what is the whole picture that's going on there? And how do we see it all as an interrelated, integrated system? It's about coordination of roles and responsibilities, being clear about how we work together, but who is doing what. It's also about development and commitment and social cohesion to a degree. So by bringing people into a space where we work together, there's a level of commitment required and given so that we are all in this together. It can be useful for attracting resources. So a catchment action plan is something we'll talk about. If we have that plan that's been developed by multiple stakeholders and all with ownership, then it is a really useful instrument in which to seek funding or resourcing to say, hey, look, we've got this great plan. Why don't we get government to fund this part? Or maybe another organisation will help fund this bit because they can see how it's all hangs together and how the outcomes will be achieved. It's a forum for local interest and feedback to government. So around this table, we're talking about the local people, other stakeholders and local government. And overall, really, healthier catchments gives us healthy people. So that's really the bottom line that we're trying to achieve here. So I've mentioned a few times plans and planning and catchment action plans, but how will we deliver integrated catchment management? Integrated catchment management's process, but how do we actually achieve this thing? So we're talking catchment action plans. That's another term you might hear a few times. We'll call it a CAP or a catchment action plan. It's how we're going to deliver ICM. It's the nuts and bolts. It tells us what, where, how, who and why we're going to do something. And it aims to show those logical links between here's an activity, this is the intended outcome, or here's an activity and it'll contribute to multiple outcomes. So it's about putting in place those logical progressions about actions creating an outcome. So an output leading to an outcome. And it's not just another document to sit on a shelf. In fact, we're not even planning on writing a document per se. the development of this catchment action plan will be done with the community, but it'll be developed and in some term of way of looking about it, uploaded into an online interactive system, which Sophie will talk about a little bit more later in terms of how that process will happen. So in summary, the steps for this development of a catchment action plan, which again, Sophie will go through in more detail, is around building partnerships, agreeing the aspirations or values, identifying the problems, what's affecting those values, those things that we care about, looking at the suspected causes of those problems. We might not know exactly the causes, but we can look at what we think is causing them as well. In some cases, we will know. Then we agree actions as to how do we address those causes to solve the problems. And then, of course, implement, monitor or track our progress and monitor and adapt. So we're going to focus on these 5 steps up to agreeing actions, really, because at that point, that's where we've got our plan. After that, we implement, and it's an ongoing process. So where we're up to right now, we're at number 1, building partnerships. We have developed or set up, when I say we, the working group, have come together to form this ICM working group. Lloyd's already told you a little bit about that, and Rachel has explained why it's such a good thing. And really its purpose was to be exactly that, a working group that can pull together the framework for what we want to do. It's not about providing the content and exactly how we're going to do it, but what would be a logical and a process or a framework that could work in this space. Bearing in mind, this is relatively new for many of us in terms of how it might roll out. So it's a bit of a testing field for us all. And then this community meeting and the one we had earlier today, that's about partnerships, getting people interested and excited about what can be done. And from that excitement, hopefully, many of you will want to give us an expression of interest to be a part of an integrated catchment group. That integrated catchment group for the Catlins will be the ones responsible for bringing together this catchment action plan with the support and help of us here at the ORC, and of course the working group. And not last but not least, and I've put it there because the next part in our presentation is our mana whanua partnership. That's a key part to the partnership. We've already built that to a degree, but this is a way of strengthening and putting that into action. So I won't go into that too much because I will be handing over to Maria, who can talk about mana whenua in the Catlins, or kaitahu in the Catlins, and explain a bit more of that. I've just aware that Sophie can't really necessarily read the chat where she is, but I will, before I hand over to Maria, I might just skim through a few and see if there's any questions here I can answer before we move on. So that's from Jessie, thank you. Recognising the our regionally significant rivers project, email the link to this meeting to our catchment group coordinator, Tess Miller. Oh, yes, sure. Now, Jessie, I'll ask Sophie to do that somehow, or Sharon can see the chat, so she could do that. It's in the, Sharon, you can see the Q&A, so I might ask you if you could email this link to Tessa at Thriving Southland.
Sure.
Thank you. And was that new posts? No, that's it. Okay. So, hi, Jessie from the Waikato. I'm listening here on behalf of New Zealand. So I'd be very keen to be involved in anything in Waikato. Okay, great. It's connecting people all over the place. So without further ado, what I will do is share another set of slides for Maria to have a look at. Bear with me. And this should pop up. Is that good?
O Māori, kia koutou. Maria Bartlett, takuikua. I'm Maria Bartlett. I work for Te Ao Marama, which is an organisation that works on behalf of Ngāi Tahu ki Murihiku. That is the southern marae of Ngāi Tahu. At Oraka, Aparima, at Riverton, Waihopai, Invercargill, Awarua and Bluff. And on this as well as Sandra McIntyre, who is waving at you now, and she's got an equivalent role working for Ōkaha, looking after the interests of Kaitahu ki Otago, which is the 4 whakatipururanga of Ngāi Tahu in the Otago region. So the reason that both of us are here is that there are 7 rūnanga with interests in the Otago region. Sandra, would you like to just pick that bit up? Oh, I think she's mute still.
Kia ora. As Maria mentioned, we, between us, sort of representing or working with kaitahu across Otago and Southland, we're both here in this meeting because, as Maria said, there are interests from different rūnaka. So the Hokanui rūnaka, who is one of the rūnaka that we worked with at Ōkaha, is has a connection to the Catlins, as well as Awarua rūnanga, who Maria is working with.
Kia ora. Thanks, Sandra. Yeah, so that was a little team effort, and so the slides are just to give an overview of the Kaitahu connections into the Catlins, which are, as the first bullet point says, long and unbroken. So there are some very important reserve lands in this area that you know, the places that are still held by Ngāi Tahu and have been in Ngāi Tahu possession and ownership for hundreds of years. So there's those significant areas, but also Catlins is a place that is visited because of these, the forests, the rivers, the wetlands, the estuaries and coastal waters, and the abundance in them in terms of ability to harvest from them. And so always in the past would have been a place to come to as well for harvest, and still to this day that is the case. So there are, as the final bullet point says, some whānau continue to live on the land in the Catlins, on that ancestral land. Others live out of it but maintain a strong connection, come back regularly because of what is special and what you all know as community members that you've got on your back doorstep. And you'll see that the Kuramia of the Catlin Safe is a particular significant area that was recognised in the Ngāi Tahu settlement as a statutory acknowledgement area, and that just means that when Ngāi Tahu went through the claim process, this was a place that was sort of singled out and highlighted, and all the connections in this place. So that'll do us, I reckon. There's rich connections is probably the thing to take away from all of this. And in terms of what is valued by Kaitahu here, it's what I've just explained before around the abundance in the natural environment, and that the natural environment is treasured for its own sake, as well as for the sustenance it provides. And when you think about being treasured for its own sake, sometimes you'll hear this word Māori, and Māori's talking about sort of life force. And I asked recently Evelyn Cook from Waihopai what where would she think of in Otago, a place where you would go to feel that strength of Māori. And what came to her was, and the importance for her was the Catlins. And she described, like one of Anna's slides before, where you had the waterfall and you've got the bush coming down, and you can hear the birds, you can smell the bush, you can taste the water, and all of that feeling that you get when you're in those places. That's how you can think of, whenever you see that word Māori, that you can think of that and how you respond when you're in those places, and that's a good way connect to that idea. So Kaitahu, oh, where are we now? Yep, so we talked about the fishing and the gathering, and there's all these, like a heap of species there. And that one of the things that's important about the Catlins is the forest going all the way down to the coast. And when you've got a catchment like that, where you've got all the native vegetation going all the way down to the water, it makes actually that kaimoana, the resources in the sea, particularly healthy along those coastlines. So Kaitahu are part of the program because it's Kaitahu are part of the Catlins community, and also have responsibilities that come from being mana whenua, which is talking about having intergenerational responsibilities to look after the environment. And as noted, there is some degradation, even though we think of all of these beautiful kind of areas around the Catlins and think of them in a, kind of, they look a bit pristine, but we know that there are some issues popping up around pests and weeds and some water quality issues. So it's all about just working together and being a part of the solutions. Oh, there we go. Well, that's just the same thing, isn't it? and what you may have seen this quote before, mō tātou mō kauri a muri ake nei, and that's for us and our descendants after us. And that's guided everything that Kaitahu's done through the Kaitahu settlement process and all the programs and efforts of the tribe, but it's equally a good banner for everybody to look after the environment.
It's been a hot time.
Hey everybody, my name's Sophie and I'm the Catchment Action Planner here at the ORC. And so my job really is to talk about the nuts and bolts of what an action plan is. And I'm just driving Anna's computer, so we'll just hope that it works. Do I just click on it once? Lovely. So you will have heard both of these terms, ICM and CAP, this evening. And, when I started at the ORC, I thought this was jargon all over the place. But these two are actually really good ones to know. And so Integrated Catchment Management, or ICM, that's the program. That's the overall way of doing things, of looking after the environment. And the Catchment Action Plan is the nuts and bolts detail. So it's the who's going to do what and where are they going to do it. So the ICM, and I've taken this from Sharon, who has been doing our comms for us, the ICM is the why, but the CAP is how. It's how we're going to do this form of environmental management. And Anna showed you this diagram before, and as you know, we're at the build partnership stage at the moment. But when we actually get together to come up with this catchment action plan, the first thing that we'll do in a series of workshops that we've got planned is to agree our values. So what are the things in the Catlins that we care about and that we want to protect? And so I've got a bit of a worked example that I'm going to go through. That didn't go so well this afternoon, so we'll see how it goes with you all on the meeting this evening. So possible values that we have in the Catlins might be forests and also might be vegetable crops. There'll be others, but let's say we're picking sort of 5 or 6. And in this case, for this example, we'll just have those 2, just to keep it really simple at this point. Then the next thing in the process that we're using, you identify the problems. So what are the things that could be having an effect on our forests and our veggie crops, which are the things that we value? Well, it could be a whole load of things, and having folks in the room who know about the issues in their catchment makes it really easy to come up with a huge list. And these are all possible ones that could be issues in the Catlins and could be issues that affect these particular values. And then we need to look at what is causing these values. So what is driving these to be problems? So let's say that we're going to focus on introduced pest species. Well, that's great, except for the fact that there's more than one, and you've got different things that you need to do to deal with all these various pests, and they'll affect our values differently. So we would then sort of decide maybe that we want to divide them into rats and possums and deer, because those are the ones that we think are the most important and that are having the biggest effect. And actually, they're having effects on different things. So your deer are absolutely having effects on the forests and our veggie crops, but the possums might only be having effects on the forests. The rats might only be having effects on the forests. And there are different ways of dealing with each of those, which is why it's really good to separate them out. Then, of course, we have to think about what's causing those problems. So again, when you've got a group of folk who really know their ecosystem and who live there, they will have a really good idea as to what all the various things are that are causing there to be too many rats or possums or deer, too many of our introduced pests. The next thing that we need to do to make a really clear line of sight between what our problems are and what our solutions are is to see whether some of our causes are connected to each other. So we know that there's an increased number of pests in this particular example. Why might that be? Is it maybe because we're relying on volunteers to trap? Is it maybe because there isn't enough funding? But we do know that all of that is causing there to be not enough control of our pests. So that would be a thing that we would do, would be to try and make sure that we have a really good line of sight between the problems and what's causing them and how this is affecting our values. Then we would get together and start thinking about the actions. So what can we do that will actually make a difference to our values at the end? Now, you could probably put an action in almost all of these things, but let's say we decided that we wanted to increase our funding for pest management, or we wanted to lobby to professionalise trapping. We could come up with all kinds of things that will make a difference to make all of these pressures be less pressury, I guess. So for this example, we decided maybe that we were going to increase funding. Well, that's absolutely fine. We've got this sort of line of things that we think are going to make a difference. So if we increase funding, we think we'll get more adequate pest control, and our volunteers will be more engaged or be able to do the work more easily. That's what we would hope. And so, as I said, we sort of change our pressures into what we would like the world to be, how we would like the world to look. But that's all very well. That sort of sounds like a plan, but it isn't. It's still not saying what we're going to do, and it's still not saying where, and it's still not saying if we do this, then we know that's going to happen. Just saying increased funding is lovely, but we need to know who, we need to know where we're going to look, who's going to write the funding agreement. So we're really getting down into that degree of nuts and bolts, because we really do want something to happen. And again, we're looking for gaps in logic in our sort of chain there. If we have loads of funding for pest management, are our volunteers actually going to be engaged and rested, or are there other things that we need to put in between those, other actions that we need to do between the funding and between having our rested and engaged volunteers? Again, if our volunteers are engaged and rested, is that going to make a difference in pest control? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But having the folks in the room who know the community and who know the issues that we have in the Catlins, then they will be able to say, no, your thinking doesn't make sense there. And that's sort of why we need everybody to work together on this. And so what we're hoping to do with this catchment action plan is to get to the agree action stage. So we really do want to have a really good, robust plan where everybody knows what's happening. And then, of course, we have to do the thing. And that's when you implement the actions, when you record your results, you monitor. And if you're not getting the results you want, you adapt your plan. But what we're trying to get to in the next year is to have this action plan sorted. And then we can go from there on to actually doing the thing. So it's a really pragmatic stepwise process. I mean, I'm all for big dreams, but we absolutely need to know what's happening when, who's doing what, and have a real stepwise process so that we're not saying things that can't happen. We want really frequent logic checks as well from people who know. So I can be logical with some things, but if I don't have the knowledge base, it's not going to make a difference. And that's why we need a group of people with different knowledges in the room. And it also allows us to work with expertise in the room. And then when we don't know, we can find out and we can bring more experts in who will know more about particular subjects. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts. That's what we're going to do in a series of workshops. We're thinking 5 to 6, along with some meetings as well. And that will be the work for us within the next year. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you. I know it's a bit of a bore writing your questions into the Q&A, but please do ask any questions. I guess the next thing really, though, assuming there aren't any just now, is just recap on what we've just spoken about, which is ICM as a program. We're looking to deliver it through the development of a catchment action plan, and the development of that catchment action plan is through an integrated catchment group, and we're looking for people to be interested, enthused, and have the capacity to commit themselves to wanting to be on that group. So the purpose of today is to explain what it is we're trying to get going and to answer any questions you may have about it, but also to let you know that you can put in an expression of an interest. I've got another slide here about how you can be involved. We've got until mid-April, August, not April, 13th of August, in which to submit an expression of interest. Now, you can go to our website for that, and I can show you, actually, if you like, where that might be. So if you are interested in being a part of this group that will develop the Catchment Action Plan for the Catlins, you can go to our website, and if you go to Managing Our Environment, Integrated Catchment Management, and then you can read a lot more about catchment management here that we've summarised for you tonight. And you can also click on the Catlins Integrated Catchment Group here and read more about that, because it's very interesting. And here is how I can be involved and what kind of things we're looking for, because it really is a cross-section of a broad range of people from different age groups, different geographic locations within the Catlins, and different backgrounds and interests and knowledge and experience. And if you read more about what you're signing up for, you can click on this link here and it'll take you to a form to fill out an expression of interest. So, example, some of the questions we had today is, what really am I signing up for? What's a commitment? This is new. We do not know exactly how long it'll take, but we're giving ourselves 12 months. So if this committee or group kicks off in, say, October, we hope to have a draft catchment action plan in place by, say, end of September next year. The process or the workshops of developing catchment action plan really are about the people on that integrated catchment group, as well as others. So we want as broad as input as we can, but we want that core group of people to do some of the hard yards. There'll be a series of workshops in which to go through those steps that Sophie explained. She simplified it quite nicely, but there is complex issues here we'll be dealing with. So we're looking at those kind of models across a broad range of values and pressures and opportunities for intervention. So I'll stop sharing that particular screen and explain the timeline for this. We're here today, the 18th of July. We've had the community meeting and now this webinar. The expressions of interest are due by 13th of August. And then the working group, which is chaired by Lloyd McCall and all the others we've introduced earlier, will have a look at making a recommendation to try and get the best cross-section of interests and representation of groups and places and age groups even to put to council for appointment. Assuming that is all endorsed, we would aim to have the first Catlins Integrated Catchment Group meeting sometime in October. that'll be time dependent about who's available and all those sort of things and getting things in place. But October would probably be the earliest we could do that. So, and as I said, we're giving ourselves approximately 12 months to get that in place. Could be longer, it could be shorter. Depends how tricky it all becomes in terms of going through the process. Sorry, I can see Kate's got her hand up.
But she can't write in the Q&A.
Ah, right. So Kate,
But she could text me. Or
I
email me.
think are you trying to
Thank-
write
thank
in the,
you.
oh, you can talk.
I've got no chat and I've got no Q&A, and I'm look, it may just be me, but I just want to check if we could ask them the question, they can either put their hands up or thumbs up or thumbs down. I can do the thumbs up, thumbs down, and on the participants, if I click my name, I could put my hand up. But you've asked questions and things and asked us, but we haven't got any way to respond. That's why I put my hand up.
Yep.
I've only worked out one way. I'm not being critical. I'm just trying to make sure that the others on board, if they want to ask that same question, have they got Q&A?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know Neil does and Jessie does and Charlie does. They've all used it in this evening.
Ben does.
There you go.
That
So,
is
yeah.
absolutely fabulous. Sorry, I just wanted to give everyone a chance to say that. I'm just sorry, I'm so stupid that I can't.
No, not at all. No, it is a bit new technology for all of us tonight here. We haven't done the webinar using Teams before. I haven't. So appreciate that, Kate. If there is anybody who's in the same situation as Kate and feels frustrated that you can't get a message through to us, please
just type in, if you could type, and I can unmute you. That's fine.
right.
Type in the Q&A if you can, or put your hand up,
or
yeah.
Email us at this
Or
address
email.
here. And we can have a chat anytime after tonight. I'm happy to go through anything of this in detail, talk to you more about our design and process for this. And if you have any queries about the getting involved, what it means for you, you're worried about it anyway, what's your time commitment, etc., please email us or phone us, reach out, and we're more than happy to have a chat to you. I can see there is a new post. Oops. The Q&A icon may be minimized at the top of your Teams window, Jessie says. So anybody sees that might be minimized.
I can go to split view or slide over, but I haven't got another screen.
Yeah. Apologies, Kate. I'm not quite sure what I can do about that, but of course now you can ask any questions. So just enjoying the parade of people behind Rachel there with the cat. Look, I know we've got a smaller crowd tonight, which is still really awesome that you've taken the time to join us. Love to answer any questions you have or that you think about it, and you can call us another time. Yep, we've got the information up there. Do stay for a cuppa and a chat. This obviously was a slide we used earlier today when people were physically in the room. So apologies for that. We don't have any cuppas for you, but I'm sure you'll all get one after this. So has anybody, even from the working group, any comments to add or to make, questions, things I may not have covered? I know, for example, Neil asked earlier, what is the area for the Catlins? And that is a really good question. So while I've got that up, what I can do is, because we were so used to looking at it, we didn't include it in our slide. But if I'll try and quickly bring it up on one of our other websites, which is under there. Good. And there. So this is the Catlins FMU, Freshwater Management Unit, is the area we're working to. So there you can see an overview of the Catlins area we're using as our boundary. So it goes from this point down here, which Rachel will be able to tell me what it's called. Maybe. Anyway, it's down towards Chaslins, and I believe this is Kaka Point or up here. And so you can, that stream, I believe you might have been asking about, Neil, the Glen Oamaru stream, I assume is this one that comes through Glen Oamaru. So that's the area of the Catlins. It's primarily the Owaka River, the Catlins River and their tributaries, as well as the Tahokupa River, as well as there's a small one up here, the Porirua. It actually apparently drains in the Lower Clutha, so that may or may not remain in the Catlins. And there's a wee bit of this upland area that actually drains into Southland, but it is within Otago Regional Council area, so it's within the Catlins area that we're looking at. So with that, you can find that on our website too. It is a little bit trickier to find, but if you look under managing our environment and then water and then land and water regional plan, and then on the left-hand side, there's a find your area. You'll be able to look at the Catlins and all the information there that's been pulled together for the water component of the land and water regional plan. Of course, as I mentioned before, this process is looking at more than just water. It's the biodiversity, land and soils, and our people. So,
Anna, I think anyone who is on here tonight who knows people that might want to be on or would be really skilled at it, and even if they don't live in the Catlins, it's really important that we get the people with those skills. And just reiterate, please share, because yeah, it'd be great to have an awesome team on it.
Yep, that agree, Kate. That would be awesome. So we do encourage you to. Yep. Really interested to get that broad cross section of experiences, knowledge, connections, people, age groups, geographic location, all of the above.
I think that's probably the key thing going forward. Like we can provide a framework and give support, but at the end of the day, we've got to have the right people, the right people to be able to build a plan, and we've got to involve the whole community the best we can. And so we had a really good crowd this afternoon. There was like 55 in the room. I think there's 7 or 8 of us, and then the rest were we're local people, and there was a lot of interest. So that was really, and it was a really good discussion we had. So we have a different on the webinar. So I can share Kate's frustration. It's a wee bit hard to communicate, but that's obviously it's all new to us, and it's a work in progress a little bit. But it's, you know, as we say, please put your names forward, because the more people's names we get forward, the better cross section of the community that we'll get, and cross section of skills as well. And then so we can get together, because as I said right at the very beginning, it's about building about the community building their plan in conjunction with the ORC&E, where we're working in partnership. So we got like a 3-way partnership going to be for the benefit of the community. And so yeah, so and if you know other people, do let them know, and don't be afraid to get a hold of Anna, or get a hold of any of us that are on the working group, like myself or Kate or Sandra and Maria. Rachel's phone's probably been running a wee bit off the hook already. So she certainly doesn't mind talking to people either. So because it's about your community, or the Catlins community in the Catlins area. So let's get involved, and let's get and then hopefully we can help you guys build something that's really worthwhile, and then that's going to secure your future and you can be proud of. And it is, and I shouldn't really be apologizing, but it is, this is our first rodeo, you could say. It's a watershed meeting today and this evening, because we're taking the idea, or the idea to the communities, and it really is now up to the communities to grab it with both hands and run with it. And I'm sure if we can all work together, we're going to really build something special. And there's plenty of people watching to see what we can build as well. So yeah, thank you all very much for listening in. And as I say, if you have questions, please don't be afraid to get a hold of somebody. How are we looking there, Anna?
Great, thank you, Lloyd. That's a great summary. We just had one more comment there from Jesse. He shares equal frustrations. Not the most communicative forum to get engaged in, this one, but we gave it a go. Having said that, not everybody could have travelled to the in-person one, is what he points out. But yeah, thanks, Jesse. It's great to have your comments, and really happy to talk more with you about anything here we can share that you can take on board for your Waikawa catchment group. Very happy to do so.
Anna Ben has just asked a question about how long each of the 5 to 6 workshops would run for. Would they be full day workshops, or do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, full day.
Yeah, I suspect they probably will be. So we've got a bit of an idea of a curriculum. We've got a bit of an idea of what we're going to do. I know, ex-teacher, I'm sorry. Bit of an idea as to what we want to do for each of the workshops. But as everyone keeps saying, this is a sort of newish process, and so it's really going to depend on how many values we want to care about, how fast we are at all these things, and that's why we're really just giving it a year so that we know, because we do want to get the plan done. And we know sort of the steps to get there, but we don't actually know how much each of these steps are going to be. So we do think probably 5 or 6 full day workshops is my guess, with maybe a couple of meetings before and a couple of meetings afterwards as well. And that's the hope, Ben.
I wouldn't mind piping up just in relation to Jesse talking about Waikawa. So Jesse, because I work for Te Marama, I spend a lot of time working in the Southland region, as well as Otago, and so something that has been on my mind is the value of this framework being sort of adopted potentially and utilised in the Southland region, but I particularly think it would be valuable, as perhaps you can recognise too, in the Catlins, because the Catlins is sort of artificially divided by the regional council boundaries, when really we're talking about a whole. And so, yeah, I'd love to follow that up with you, GC, outside of this probably.
Cool, thank you, Maria. If you like, we can pass on your contact details to Jesse if they don't already have them. Yep. Okay. Can we?
Yeah.
Make it down. Thank you. And we've got another post. Excellent points. Feel free to contact me. Oh, here you go, Maria. We've got Jesse's contact details. I'm sure you can see the Q&A, but if not, we'll keep a note of that and send it on to you as well, Maria. Okay, you can't see it just yet, but we'll forward that to you. Thanks, Jesse. All right.
So I think just before we go, Dr. Palmer, Gavin, do you have anything to say? Do you wish anything to say? Yeah, check.
Oh, I think it's the Q&A button. There's a chat button and there's a Q&A button. Yeah, that one. Yeah,
no, that's all good, Gavin. Oh, there you go.
No, I'm all good, Lloyd. Thank you for that.
You know, that's awesome. Thanks for being with us. Gavin's one of the driving forces behind this as well. And Councillor Wilson, Kate, would you like to just have a remark for the end there?
Oh no, it's great to be part and to be listening in. I just encourage people to please put their names forward. It's just reiterate that, because yeah, and look, I'm going to actually put it, if people do want to talk about this in person, I'm going to put the challenge out that invite Lloyd or me down there. We always like to visit down there. In fact, I'm down there this weekend for social reasons. Yeah, it's if we can help encourage other people to be on board, or if there's anything we can come and talk to a group of people about it, let us know before the August 13th.
Awesome. Rachel, have you got any final comments?
I just think this is a really great opportunity for the Catlins community to get in behind and you know, build it from the ground up. What's important to us, and ensure that, you know, there's something here for future generations. Yeah, so please, people from all different areas and all different employments and from social activities, please, if you know, put your name forward, and because yeah, the broader range of people we have, the far better job we can do of, you know, looking after everything that's important to the people within the Catlins and those that come to visit and care about it. So yeah, cool. Cheers.
And Sandra, are you good? Awesome. Anna?
No, all good, Lloyd.
So that's not, we'll just close the meeting. Thank you. Thank you all very much for linking in, and we'll take the lessons from the meeting and hopefully try and make it a wee bit more better and interactive next time if we can. But thank you very much, and we do really invite you to go onto the website and fill out one of the forms, and if you can't do that, just get a hold of one of us and we'll get a form to you one way or the other. So that's excellent. I'll just close with a short karakia to finish. Kia tau te rangi Māori, ki runga ina iwi o te ao. Let peace reign on all peoples of the world. Amen. Thank you very much for attending. Awesome.
Sure. Thank you very much.